From the Aishin Broadcast Studio, it's AMN Drive Time, brought to you by Aishin.
AMN Drive Time is sponsored by Aishin, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit AishinAftermarket.com for more information.
Gideon, welcome to AMN Drive Time, sponsored by our good friends at Aishin.
I appreciate it. I'm so glad to be here, and I truly appreciate you guys having us. It's awesome.
So you've shared with us before that you lucked into the aftermarket. Tell us about how you got your first role in the aftermarket and what keeps you in this great business.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I have since said I lucked into the aftermarket, like probably a lot of people that go through their careers and paths. I was coming out of grad school with my MBA at UNF, and I was introduced to a gentleman by the name of David Honig. At the time, he was the president of the Parts House. Okay. And their e-commerce division was struggling. It was, it was doing well, but really they needed just a sense of direction. And so we went through, the parts of that, to kind of build and rebuild and develop, and everything became e-commerce focused. Everything became digitally focused. And I got a bird's eye view of the entire industry, which is the aftermarket. And now I'm obviously a little bit in the OE side in the aftermarket, but I head up the aftermarket division for Revolution Parts. And I got into that piece of the business, and my eyeballs, it was just awesome to see the industry. We're here for the working, we ultimately work for the working people of this world and around the country. And so I just gravitated to the automotive, and I've kind of since said, a lot of it is like 50% blue collar, 50% white collar. And I just developed a great passion and care and genuineness that really wants to take our industry forward in the best way possible, with technology and what manufacturers are doing and distributors. So I really got an interesting start. Yeah. And David Honig is still a great mentor to mine. He actually lives near me. And so I see him all the time, and we definitely, keep up. I actually played in the member with him and probably stunk it up, so I don't want to talk about that. But him and I are great friends, and yeah, that's how I got into the industry. And it's I think just getting started.
Well, I always say the aftermarket's like a lobster trap. You can swim in, and then you just can't ever find your way out again.
Very much so. Very much so. And I've done a lot of different things. I've been coming through college and being on different teams. I was a collegiate athlete, so you're on teams that are good teams and bad teams, and you're around a wide variety of people. And I always come back to this industry of the aftermarket and automotive and parts, and what are the automakers doing? How can we react, or how can we counter, or how can we grow market share? But it's always about the people. And I've always found that to be so fascinating about this industry. The people is what make this industry so great. And I think we're at this point where we're seeing the digital side of our industry move forward very aggressively. You have, manufacturers that are older, that are younger. We have this kind of digital era that's pushing forward. I mean, obviously with the rise of the Amazons and so many different digital experiences, but I think in our industry alone, I just see so much opportunity that how we can move forward together, ultimately to service our customers better. But I just go back, it's 100% like getting in a lobster trap. Yep. And for not finding your way out, and yeah, I just, it's a great industry, but I always go back. It's the people that make the industry, and that's what's pretty awesome about it.
So Gideon, at Revolution Parts, when you advertise for prospective employees, you talk about your company culture when you're advertising for new folks. Unlimited snacks, games, all those variety of things. What do you think makes the culture at your company special?
The snacks are great, the games are great, the culture is great. But it comes down to one thing. It's relentlessly focused. That is, I think, the number one piece that drives our entire industry and what we do as an organization. I met Ibram and Andreas back when I was at the distributor level, and we got to know each other. and I got to know the company. I got to know what we're doing. I got to understand a little bit more of the culture. Sure, they have the greatest snack bar known to man. Sure, there's games. Sure, it's an awesome place to be. But one thing that I think has surpassed my expectations, but also as an industry, like I've defined Revolution Parts as very much, we are an industry company. We are a parts-focused company in OE and aftermarket. And, but our product is technology, right? And that's very important within our industry to have that distinctive differentiation. But you look at the great culture, but honestly, it goes back to, if you look at every single division within our organization, there's relentless focus. And that is really what's driving the innovation. That's what's driving the connectivity. That's what's driving the distribution points that we're connecting, what manufacturers are doing on our platform, what our sellers are benefiting. And it's only going to continue to increase and get better and exponentially grow. And we've seen it. But without relentless focus and without core teams within our organizations coming together and working together to solve a problem or working together to push the limits, we're really want to push the limits. And that's kind of a little bit of what you're going to find at Revolution Parts. We have a great recruiting team, and I would encourage young individuals, and I talk about this a lot. If you're young and you're in the industry and you're not sure where to start, we are always looking for top tier talent, and we hire for A players, right? Our hiring model is, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. We are looking for A talent, and it's just a really great organization. And I just think we're just getting started, which is awesome. So, yeah.
So Revolution Parts is a relatively new business.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And you sell on eBay, you sell on Amazon. What's your view on digital and the internet and how it helps the aftermarket?
Yeah, sure. So when you think of Revolution Parts, do we have connectivity into the marketplaces? Of course, yes. But basically what it really is when a customer comes to us, meaning a dealer, a parts seller, a manufacturer, even a distributor, we solution end to end for them. So when you look at the historical perspective of, okay, we're a manufacturer and we have to hire an engineer, an architect, all of these things, now you have a payroll of excess of multi-millions of dollars. When they come to us, it's really, we are an extension of their IT department. And over the last 13 years that we've been in business, we've obviously had successes, great successes. We've also had failures, right? And you learn from the failures, but our tech stack has continued to grow to where, as we're now in the aftermarket, our entire mission is to be the connective tissue from distribution to the manufacturers. So as a part seller, you can come in and bolt into this great e-commerce program. Sure, you can sell on marketplaces, absolutely. But I think when you look at the digital age and how we think of technology, is connectivity, right? Historically, manufacturers across the board they're selling into distribution, but there's no technical connection, right? And so we really want kind of every aspect of it from the OE perspective, even in the aftermarket. And I understand that those are two separate things. But it's really about pushing the industry forward through a really advanced tech stack with absolutely everything you need to enable your go-to-market strategy or your digital commerce, and connect in with your partners. Channel conflict is a big part of our aftermarket, right? Does a manufacturer make a decision to do X? Well, they're not going to do it because we have, conflict of interest with some of our big buyers in the distribution world. But we're really moving at an aggressive rate to tear down those pieces of our industry to where we really can come together on a tech stack that drives, growth, market share, profitability. Race to the bottom, I think, needs to go away. In my opinion. We're here for the customers. So, yeah.
So you guys facilitate selling OE parts to repair shops. So, and you're doing a lot of business doing that, right? What do you see, any other additional roles you play in the aftermarket or things you're doing here?
Yeah, so the start of Revolution Parts, just for historical context, was about the OE, right? It was about a dealership ultimately that didn't have a digital presence. We know that OE catalogs are not they don't operate on a standard, right? So every OE catalog was really, the whole intent early on was that we could go in and a dealership, an OE dealer could ultimately start to sell parts online, right? And not only just have a presence in their local geographic region, but we wanted to expand it, right? To where it was within the North America, even in some particular instances, if maybe an international person wanted to buy a part, right? But that's fine. And so the whole intent really was that we take our technology stack and level up their entire digital operations that they could go to market. So a dealer can now go and sell their Honda OE or sell whatever OE parts that they're selling. They can just have an outlet for it. And so when we look at the OE space, since that time, we now, run some of the biggest OEs e-commerce programs and OPAR and many others. And so that's been really a wildly successful, path in the industry. But as we look at the aftermarket, the OE and aftermarket are they're the hard parts, but they're two different kind of worlds to some degree. And when we look at the aftermarket, we believe that a lot of the same, that same similar model will hold true, but we do think that there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differentiators in the aftermarket that we have to, kind of blend in and obviously, level up the aftermarket as well. So two separate, but really it's just a matter of giving, a dealership, a parts seller, somebody who's selling that OE brand, giving them a better presence online to where they can convert more sales. They can, drive more top line revenue, which goes down to the bottom line and increase that whole piece. So it's really an exciting time, I think, at Revolution Parts when you look at the OE side of the business as well as the most exciting part of our business, which is the aftermarket.
So as a follow-up to that, Gideon, as you said, one of the features of your e-commerce platforms, it helps OEM dealers sell parts to local shops, right? Mm-hmm. What do you see as the impact of e-commerce moving forward among shops, and what would be your forecast for OE parts sales versus aftermarket parts sales on e-commerce platforms?
Yeah, so what do we think the future is? I mean, when you look at a repair shop, they're ultimately looking to source if it's the OE, they want to source it get it as quickly as possible, right? And so the way we look at from a tech perspective is how do we get that OE part to that repair shop in the shortest amount of time period, right? Yep. And so when we look at our organization and our tech staff, we're really looking to digitally level up that piece to where we're making it seamless, to where you're going in as a repair shop, you're buying either from one of our sellers or somebody within our platform, and you can look at the visibility, you can look at where it sits potentially in a PDC, to where ultimately they can get that part on their vehicle, as quickly as possible, and they can, they can just level up that entire experience. We know that the technician as technicians age out, as you've been in the business a long time, the newer technicians coming in are more digital savvy, right? So the newer technicians are looking to buy their parts in a different manner. But ultimately, that's the main focus is how we see it is how can we take technology and make that transaction seamless and make it a profitable transaction. Your latter question was about, what do we think the forecast is? I think the forecast is very simple. From a simplicity perspective, the repair facility, the repair technician, whether you're in the OE, the dealership side, or you're in an aftermarket with 8 bays and a repair facility, it's very simple. The technicians coming in are very digitally savvy, right? So as a parts supplier or a parts manufacturer, you're going to have to meet their needs in a different place. You have to meet them where they're potentially shopping. And so we really look at it as we think that the digital commerce is going to 2, 3, 4x not only our business, but I think it's also we're going to find incremental growth in the digital side to where you can gain market share very quickly, right? But buyers are going to different places to purchase the part, That's what we see, and that's what our research shows, and it's a very interesting part of to be in our industry ultimately.
So Gideon, you guys have a tech platform for the business as we stand today. What's the ultimate end game for you guys? Is there something out there you're looking to achieve? Is the ultimate positioning?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Historically, OE and aftermarket have been very different worlds, right? And we know that. We've been in the OE business, but really, as we've opened up our platform to the aftermarket and that division, really the end game for Revolution Parts is very simple. It is to solution end to end, from distribution to manufacturers to part sellers, right? We really want to eliminate friction, right? So where I think you look at the industry and you look at, oh my gosh, there's friction on all of these particular components, right? I've sat in many meetings with very large manufacturers, and they struggle with certain pieces of the business from a connectivity perspective. And really the focus for us is to be the parts industry platform and really can solution end to end, eliminating friction, grow your market share, assist in your go-to-market strategy, all through our digitally enabled tools and our future roadmap. We have a very jam-packed roadmap from every aspect of the industry, OE or aftermarket. And we think that's very exciting. But really that is the key. I mean, the key objective is to solution end to end and ultimately help enable our industry where they maybe have struggled through their tech stack. That's really the focus.
So Gideon, it is a tradition on AMN Drive Time to do something we call a lightning round.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're going to give me a quick answer.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you sure?
Of course.
All right.
Yes.
Podcast or reader?
Podcast.
Apples or oranges?
Apples.
Eat out or cook at home?
Cook at home. Eating out is, yeah.
You have a 2.5-year-old. You got to
Yeah. I think food quality at restaurants is going downhill. We eat at home. Wife's a great cook too.
Are you a DIY or a DIFM guy?
DIFM.
Given a choice, would you be able to fly or be invisible?
Invisible.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone. I had one Android. I had a wreck in like 1 week. I was on it. Couldn't figure out how to answer the phone. No, this is a true story. Literally, because I thought I was going to get an Android. I said, I'm going to get an Android. You know, they said, my buddy says it's packed with technology. The first week I got it, I was trying to pick up the call, but I was hitting the wrong button. Took my eyes off the road and smoked the guy in front of me.
Oh, geez.
Went back to an iPhone.
Last question. Text or make the phone call?
Oh, gosh, that's a 50-50. I like to make the phone call, but a text is convenient. I'm not answering the question.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Gideon, great to have you on AMN Drive Time, sponsored by Aishan.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. We thank you so much for having us, and we look forward to doing so much more with you guys. You guys have a wonderful organization, and we appreciate you guys having us.
Thanks so much.
AMN Drive Time is sponsored by Aishan, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit aishanaftermarket.com for more information.